Well, delight for Tottenham at Wembley. Harry Kane's deflected goal, the winner, coming a couple of minutes from the end. Tottenham get their first win of the campaign, and they are still battling for a place in the last 16. Inter, as you heard George say during the commentary, equalising very late at home against Barcelona. And there is what is coming up next. Tottenham and Inter is a massive game on the 28th of November back at Wembley. And of course, Tottenham finish away to Barcelona, so they are still very much in the hunt for a place in the last 16 of this competition, are Pochettino's side. And Stephen, they'll be absolutely thrilled with that. They had enough chances to win 2 games, but finally they got the win.
No, they'll be absolutely delighted. They've performed very well over the course of both halves, and they've created a lot of chances, so they really should come away probably more comfortable than they have, but they've scraped it in the end. And the first goal coming from a long ball, which was not really what they've been doing the whole game, so it's a bit different than what they've been playing, but a good result for Tottenham in the end, and they'll be happy. Yeah,
and I know, Richie, beforehand you were laughing at the 10% chance of making the last 16. The odds are improving.
Is there an update?
Yeah, I haven't got an updated number, but it's certainly looking a lot better for them than it did beforehand.
Yeah, the group is looking a lot healthier for them now. The late equaliser by Inter obviously is a blow for them, but they can beat, if they beat Inter in their next game, they'll go into the final group game second in the group, depending on goal difference, but they're going to go away to Barcelona, which is probably the toughest game you can get in European football. But it was a good night. They deserved it. We spoke beforehand about the concession of late goals and making individual errors. They left it late themselves. It was a very, very fortunate goal that they got. It was a double deflection, but it was what they deserved. Numerous chances. They passed PSV off the park, particularly in the first half.
Yeah, and I suppose with an eye on that Barcelona game, Tottenham will be hoping that Barcelona will have qualified at that stage, so it won't matter as much for Barca?
It might not, but Barcelona aren't a team that let up too many points at home in Europe. Even, you know, it's the most difficult fixture they could face.
Stephen, let's have a look at the equaliser. Like, they absolutely battered them, and eventually it came after 78 minutes from, well, this fella.
Yeah, it's like I said, for all the intricate play and lovely football, it's a long ball up front. Llorente's currently on the pitch now, so it's a flick on from Kane. It's a lovely touch here from Llorente to set him up, and Harry Kane does what he does best and puts it away. But it's again, like I said, for all the intricate football, it's slightly change of tack to what they've gone with, and it's worked out well for him. But you know, the person you want on the end of that ball is Harry Kane, and he scuffed it a little bit, but he still directs the ball into the corner of the goal, and it just puts Tottenham back in contention of being in this tie.
And he just gets in those positions, and he has an incredible record in this competition. And actually, I was looking at the end, when you look, Richie, at the winning goal, it seemed to take 2 deflections, but they've still given it and credited it to Harry Kane. Try and take it off him, says you, I suppose.
It will go down as his goal. It's a really good ball there to pick out Davies, who himself delivered a really, really good cross from the position he was in. We're going to see a couple of replays of it now. Kane, there's no question of offside there. Davies is onside. The delivery is superb. Kane gets a header. We'll see. It first rebounds off Verheever's left arm. Then it bounces off Sainsbury's left knee. So whatever chance the goalkeeper had after the second deflection, he'd none at all. So we spoke before about the maybe Tottenham were unlucky in the way, the corresponding fixture in Holland. They can't claim that tonight at all. Very fortunate goal, but it deserved one.
Well, his view very much, Richie, that they deserved it, and we're all in agreement here. You guys certainly are. And when you look at all these chances, like, they had so many of them in the first half and then a half full in the second half. It did look for a while, though, as if their luck had run out and it just wasn't going to happen.
It did, but I think they deserve praise for persevering. Their intensity didn't drop off at all. Ali does well here, plays a 1-2 with Kane. You can see what his intention is. He's looking at the far post. But the more the half went on, this is the scenario that Tottenham faced more and more. A really, really packed crowd at the PSV defence. Son there with the shot just went wide. But they kept going. At half-time, he showed 5 or 6 goal-scoring opportunities they had. Harry Kane, who had probably one of his quieter nights, his overall influence in the game wasn't what it's been in other games there. He couldn't get a shot away initially, and the keeper made a good save. And the 2 substitutes linked quite well here. Pochettino made a few attacking substitutes. Trippier came on a full-back. He offers a lot going forward. And Llorente, who Kane spoke about there, has a difficult spell at Tottenham, but contributed well for the goal and could have done better really with that chance.
And we saw it for long periods in the first half, particularly in the second half, Stephen. While Tottenham were camped in the PSV half, when you do that, you're always susceptible to the break. And PSV did have a couple of chances.
Yeah, they have a couple of very good chances. The header coming up from Pereira, which again, defending in the box has got to be questions for Tottenham. That's something they have to look at, because you don't want to be conceding goals from set plays. And then this is a great opportunity. Malin just on the pitch for a few minutes and takes a great first touch, sets himself up and hits it straight. Fortunately for Tottenham, hits it straight at the goalkeeper. It's a great strike, but if that goes either side of him, that's a different game. It's 2-1 to PSV, and they're in the ascendancy. It's you have to be careful in games like this. They could have lost it. For all the chances, they could have been stung again, but fortunately enough, they've come through.
Do you fancy your old team to go through now? A lot of work to do.
The percentages are higher, but like Richie said,
it's not all about the numbers.
Like Richie said, I think having to go to Barcelona on the last game with possibly needing to win it is going to be difficult. So you still think it's going to be a hard task for them. But take each game as it comes. Inter next, go and win that, and then put yourself in a good position.
And at home, like they'll fancy that. Well, they have to fancy it. They have to do it.
I think Kane said it there. The 3 wins is what they set their target for. So the target now is just to beat Inter Milan at home. And if they do that, depending on the scoreline, they could go into the final game ahead of Inter Milan. And you never know, PSV might do them a favour at Inter. They could get beaten at Barcelona and still go through. So that's the most optimistic outlook. But they've deserved to win tonight. They deserve to still be in the hunt.
Well, as Richie says, you never know. That's it from us for now. My thanks to Stephen and to Richie. Champions League deal, which this is year 1 of 3, features a lot more money for the clubs. But it is all about mega cash, isn't it? This talk, and it is only talks. We've had, the details of these meetings with the big clubs. We've had details of that through this Football Leaks documents in Der Spiegel in Germany.
But it makes a huge amount of sense commercially for clubs to do this. For all of you, they make tens of millions every year in the Champions League. They'll be able to change that revenue to being hundreds of millions. Let's assume all the meetings have taken place and all the figures and the documents are true. This is the logical, inevitable next step the football was going to go to. Like, if you think back to all the arguments that were made for the formation of the Premier League in '92. It's about most of the money to a small amount of clubs at the top of the English game. And it made it way more attractive, way more higher quality to watch, way more revenue in terms of media and sponsorship, the whole lot. Players came from all over the world to play in it. The Champions League is the same thing. Consolidate huge amount of money in Europe to the top amount of teams. And now you've found that within that Champions League, there's a group of teams every year. They're the same teams in the latter stages of the tournament. They're dominating domestically. They're commercial, juggernauts. So I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen. When you see it all, that it makes sense to everyone. I don't know what power there is. I'm not sure on the legalities of it all. I don't know what power the UEFA have, or domestic leagues and all that stuff. But you would assume if there are hurdles that can't be cleared, this would have been dropped before now. We've a question, and thank you for the question, a gentleman or lady called Soccer Fan, and this question goes along the lines of, do you think if Spurs spent a lot more money, they could win the Premier League or the Champions League? What do you think of that, Stephen? Your old team. How much is a lot more? Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, I know. Well, let's say 100 million in the January window. Well, one player could cost you 100 million. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you're going Man City spending or Chelsea spending, when Chelsea first came onto the scene, they effectively bought titles by the players they were able to, attract to the club. So technically, it could be done. Do they have the right manager in place there? Probably. He would seem to could scout a player that could improve them. Would they have the finances? I don't know. With the way the things are at the moment, would they ever Tottenham throw themselves at something like that on going the past? I don't think they would. But yeah, I think technically they could definitely buy themselves a title. Do you just look at the teams that have done it? I think, we know from watching football, titles and trophies can be bought. Yeah. You just outspend all your opponents and you're in a stronger position. But I don't know how much money you would have to give Pochettino now. If you were to give him the squad he has now and a checkbook, knowing the price of the top players out there, knowing the way the market is and the wage bill and all that stuff, 100 million, 200 million, it's not going to bridge the gap between them and Man City. Well, look at Fulham. How much is Fulham spending in the summer? And they are going 100 mil, wasn't it? There you go, going to be relegated. So, you pick an amount of money, 150 million, that might buy you Mbappe. Yeah. Would Mbappe on his own, in that Tottenham squad, bring the level of consistency and performance and all the wins they would need to bridge the gap between them and Man City? In my view, no. So 150 million isn't enough. It's not enough, yeah. If you double that, in what areas would you strengthen and who would you bring in? To win the Champions League, you have to bridge the gap between where Tottenham are now, which is third in their group at the moment. To
Where?
To who?
Barcelona,
Bayern, Real. Who are the top clubs? So, yes is the answer with a lot of money, but the amount of money you're talking about, just it's too unrealistic.
In the current market, it's astronomical, isn't it?
And they do have the right manager as well. Like for like he's a much sought after manager. He's signed up to a new long-term contract. There's an awful lot of clubs who would love to get their hands on him to manage their team.
And it seems like there'll be a lot of players that would like to play under him as well. He seems like a manager you'd want to play for. He seems to get the best out of all those players he has there. So they're looking extremely, on paper they look like a lovely team to go for this. Like manager, check. Superstar in Harry Kane, goal scorer, check. Stadium on its way, almost check. They've got a lot of things going for them. There's something missing. That's
the biggest thing, which is going to become a factor now. If the Super League talks are credible, and if there's progress being made, and if the clubs actually sign off on what we think is going to be the case, which in Tottenham's case means they're not involved, then what's going to happen is in the next year or two they won't be able to attract the biggest players on long-term contracts, because the biggest players won't want to sign a long-term contract with a club that can't be in the top league in Europe. Pochettino, will he want to stay there? He's got personal ambition himself, so he's going to know he's now managing a club that doesn't matter how much they're going to give him to spend, which they don't have much because they're buying a new stadium, but even if he had loads, the best players won't arrive because they're not going to be in the competition that all the best players in the world are going to be in.
Won't be competing.
So it's a huge game changer for Tottenham if the details, as we've led them to believe they are
correct. And we know that there are 5 English clubs in there. Like how, you know, you can't go somewhere if you're not invited. But you know, how do Tottenham get themselves to that top table if this thing does come to fruition?
I don't think they can.
I don't think they can, because they're not.
How do you overcome? How do you get past Liverpool? How do you get, like Man United could finish 8th in the Premier League?
Still commercially the biggest.
5 years in a row, and Tottenham finished 3 or 4 places above them. Nobody in the Super League talks will see Tottenham as a better option than Man U, because it's not about just performances on the pitch.
It's about their commercial viability as a basically as a brand. It's a brand, their branding, isn't it? And Tottenham are not as big as brand as those top 5, which is the issue.
And I don't think there's anything they can do in the next 5 years to jump above City or Chelsea, United or Liverpool to be.
If they won
invited.
the Premiership 5 years in a row, they'd have an opportunity. They might, but that's asking a lot. And
it is asking a lot. It is asking a lot.
Thank you.
OK, well, that's a live interview from Wembley. And actually, Richie, looking at Pochettino, and he's addressed this himself over the last couple of weeks, that's the happiest I've seen him in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the quotes he gave a couple of weeks ago where he said it's the lowest he's been in a while. I think the health of a club or the morale within a club can't just be judged by the results on a Saturday, and his comments is just another example of that. He's not happy for a number of reasons. All the stuff I'm sure we're familiar with at this stage, the transfer spending or the ambition or the priorities of the club or the stall with the stadium, but I think he's right to be happy tonight with the way the team played, the number of chances they created, the performance of the goalkeeper when it was called upon, and they got the win that they deserved. So he's right to say, you know, the equaliser that Inter got has put a bit of a downer on the night, but fully deserved 3 points.
Yeah, they were fully deserved 3 points, Stephen, weren't they?
Extremely deserved. They were the better team over the course of 90 minutes. They created more chances. The first half, the game could have totally been put to bed if they had converted 2 or 3 of them. Second half, they did hurt their luck a little bit when they were pushing forward, and PSV had a couple of good opportunities, but overall they were a much better side. They played much better football, created better chances, and were.
I think all the bigger picture frustrations will still be there from them.
Yeah.
A win tonight doesn't remove all the other the very heated discussions which I assume are carrying on constantly between him and Daniel Levy, the board or the
behind the scenes. It must be a really revolving door. Like, there must be loads going on, because the situation that he's such a coveted manager at the moment, and he will have aspirations, and if he doesn't feel like he's getting the support from Tottenham to get them to where he wants them to be, or where he sees himself as being, then there's going to be a draw, and his opportunity to move on teams won't last for that long as well, because it only, you know, you said you're at the top for a certain amount of time and people want you, and that goes past, you might miss an opportunity. So, and I'm sure he doesn't want to do that, and I'm sure he wants to achieve with Tottenham as well, but it's an interesting time.